tell y'all a story time of the weirdest fucking girl I've ever met in my entire life. This girl was the biggest hater of me for some reason. I don't know what I did to her. I don't know if I committed first degree murder on her entire bloodline, that this girl has always had this weird energy with me, or maybe she's just like a lifelong hater of everyone. And in that case, my apologies, friend. Get it together, please, for your own sake. Listen to this shit, okay? So in high school, she was always really weird with me. And then there was this one time, my best friends went to my middle school and they were talking to all like the teachers and whatever. And one of the teachers made a little comment to them, basically saying, Sahar seems like she's really friendly with all the boys. Basically calling me a slut, okay? Basically saying that he's hearing that I'm a slut. And I'm like, who the fuck could this be? Who is this that would go to my middle school teacher and be like, oh, like Sahar's a slut? And I was in the washroom, all right? And I was talking to this one girl, and I was like, oh, you know what's super weird? Someone, like, told Mr. Blank that I'm, like, a slut or something. Isn't that weird? And then she's like, oh, really? Like, who would do that? And then she, like, stormed out of the bathroom. And then it clicked for me. This bitch had been volunteering at the fucking school under this teacher in specific, who really had the nerve to be talking shit about me, trying to call me a slut or whatever, to my 6th grade teacher. And then flash forward to like last week, all right, and posting about, I'm like, oh my god, like I said I wasn't gonna travel for the rest of the, like for a little bit, and now I'm booking another trip because with what I do, guess what, traveling is a thing, okay? Social media people, surprise, we travel. She has the nerve to respond to my story being like, that ecological footprint though, sorry, I didn't fucking realize I was talking to Mother Nature herself. And I'm just so confused because I'm like, this girl, you work at a electronics shop. That ecological footprint, let's talk about that, because they're probably throwing out phones and shit left and right. I don't really know what these stores do, but regardless, I'm like, what are you doing that is so pro-economy that you feel so entitled to tell me about me and my ecological footprint, okay? I recycle more than anybody I know. I'm literally a hoarder because I'm scared of throwing things out because I don't like wasting things, okay? Beyond the point, I was poor my entire life. I only traveled one time up until I was like 21, so leave me alone. Let me do my thing. Hater back then, hater now. It just made no sense to me. I did unfollow her right after that because I was like, this is hater behavior. My brother was mean to her when we saw her in person. I felt bad for her. And it turns out she deserved it.
You ever shit your pants as an adult? I haven't. Have you ever cleaned up adult shit and not been paid for it? I have. This is the story of my shitty coworker. I've been waiting to tell this story for so long, but I couldn't because I worked with her. But luckily for me, she recently quit, so I'm gonna air it out. So a little backstory. As soon as she started working, there was so many like red flags. This girl was just a pathological liar. Like, she told me that her brother was in Blink-182. I don't think that she knew that I knew that band. Also would lie about her age. Like, when I first met her, she told me that she was 28, and then her birthday came up, so I said, oh, like, happy 29th birthday. So offended. It was like, I'm not turning 29. I just turned 27. And I was like, oh, okay, like, maybe I misremembered. And then months later, she was like, oh, I keep forgetting that we're not that far apart in age. And I was like, oh yeah, like we're only like 5 years apart from each other. And she was like, what? I'm 25. And later on, I find her on Facebook and she had posted a profile picture in 2008 saying senior prom. You start to calculate it a little bit, that puts her at about 33 years old. Which, like, whatever, some women lie about their age, but like, you can't gaslight me about it 3 separate times. And she was always the victim in all of her stories. Like, she never did anything wrong. I have not liked people I work with since I've been working, but I never let them know. It wasn't being fake, but I was being nice because it's better than having drama. One night, we were working together and we ended up closing pretty early, and she was like, oh, I haven't seen, like, your new apartment yet. Like, can I come over? It's been a decent day, and sure, like, you can come over for a little bit. We can have a drink. And after hanging out for about an hour, she was like, okay, I should get going soon. Like, before I leave, can I use your bathroom? And I was like, of course, girl. Like, of course you can use my bathroom. I also wanted to backtrack a little bit because I did forget to put some important information in there. With her being a pathological liar on top of that, so we bartend and we pool tips if you work with someone. And one of her lies is that she would tell the servers that we didn't pool tips and to not tip out the other bartenders and then expect me to split tips with her still. So, like, kind of robbing me. She also would say, like, oh, I tipped you out this much, and it would be, like, significantly less. So she would also fuck around with my money, okay? It wasn't just, like, silly little lies. She's like, I'm gonna head out soon. Like, can I use your restroom? And I'm like, for sure, girl, go crazy. As soon as she gets done in the bathroom, she, like, fucking dips. Not thinking anything, like, what the fuck? And so I just go to bed. I go to bed. I wake up in the morning, and I go to pee. My toilet looks like, you know, you shit and then, like, it didn't go all the way down. Grab my toilet scrubber thing to, like, try and clean it up, and the toilet scrubber's already covered in shit. And I am confused. I had just had a birthday party and I had 17 people at my apartment, so I was like, okay, like, I don't know, maybe something happened when I had 17 people in my apartment. Not the one weird bitch that I had over the night before. But I tried to clean up the toilet the best I could with the shit scrubber. And then I threw it away because I have no fucking clue how to clean that. And then after that, I just, like, left and went to work. And then I didn't spend the night at my place after that. And I kind of, like, forgot about it. After a couple of days, I come back home to my apartment. And I had opened the next morning. And so when I woke up in the morning, I went to go get in the shower. I go to get in the shower and I walk in my bathroom. I'm like, it still smells like shit in here. Like, it still smells so fucking bad. And I'm so confused. So I'm trying to figure out where the fuck this smell comes from. I look in the garbage can next to the toilet. And do you know what was in there? Do you know what is in there? Can you guess? Literally a whole human shit. Marinated in my bathroom garbage can for days. I'm crying. And calling my coworkers. I, like, threw away my toothbrush. I'm in full panic mode. Because what the fuck? I think the worst part about the whole thing is that I never fucking confronted her for it. Like, I just worked with her for months, knowing that she had shit in my fucking garbage can, and I had cleaned it up, and that she was shorting me money, and I just never fucking said anything. And that's the story of the time I cleaned up human shit, and I didn't get paid for it. In fact, I lost money on it. And I never had the fucking balls to confront that bitch about it. And that was the worst coworker I've ever had in my life.
Story time of the bridesmaid who accidentally told me that she hated me. I do just want to quickly say that I'm only going to say this story because it just fit the trend yesterday. Like, I don't sit here and think about it. There's no negative feelings. And this is going to be a longer video. It just is. There's no way that I can make it a quick thing. Flashback to whenever I was engaged. First things first, you get all your girls together. I had 9 bridesmaids, and I was really excited to ask everybody to be a part of my bridal party. And I had one specific friend, the bridesmaid, who I was hanging out with pretty frequently. With that being said, I have always known who my maid of honor was going to be. Even before I met Zach, my best friend from college, my sorority sister, I've just always known. Whenever I asked all my girls to be my bridesmaids, I started noticing really weird behavior from this one specific bridesmaid after I asked my maid of honor to be my maid of honor. And by that, I mean she would start to make comments like, I wish I hung out with new people, I want to make new friends, and she would say it to me, like only to me. It would have been a red flag. It was a red flag back then, but I just told myself, you know what, I'm busy wedding planning, maybe that's where it's stemming from. She met a girl, and we're going to call her friend number 1, and later on there's going to be friend number 2, but for now it's just my bridesmaid and friend number 1. Friend number 1 I met. At one point, we were even like a little trio friendship. She was even a guest at my wedding. At some point, I was booted out of that friendship. Again, I know that should have been a red flag, but I kept telling myself, like, I'm really busy wedding planning, and that's just not an area that they can relate to or want to be involved in right now. After a little while, in would come friend number 2. So now my bridesmaid is in a trio kind of friendship with these 2 other girls, one who I've met, friend number 1, and friend number 2 I have never met. To this day, I've never met. On the day that she accidentally told me that she hated me, we had been drinking, and she told me that she wished that she hung out with me and my maid of honor and just me and my friends all together. And I was like, that is a great idea. Maybe we can all hang out. We can all be one massive friend group. And instantly, she said verbatim, my friends would think that it was weird as fuck if I asked them to hang out with you. And that comment literally shocked me to my core. I physically felt my heart do something. I was like, are you sure? I know, you know, friend number 1, we've hung out, like I thought we were friends. She's like, no, look, I'll show you. She whips her phone out and she pulls up a group message between her and these 2 other girls, one who I've met, one who I've never met, and they're literally just shitting on me. There's even screenshots of mine and my bridesmaids' messages, like in there. I was referred to as a toxic ex-boyfriend who she can't get rid of. The girl that I've never met before, in all capital letters, there's a message from her saying, I hate her. And just a group message where they're just shitting on me. And mind you, this is my best friend just drunkenly showing this to me. Unfortunately, I had no backbone. I really didn't, because friend number one was even a guest at my wedding. And I had a lot of love for my bridesmaid. She'd been my best friend for several years. I genuinely just did not have a backbone, and I let her convince me that this was kind of all just like a drunken misunderstanding, and she didn't mean it, and the messages were... Even saying it out loud, I'm kind of disappointed in myself. Ultimately, she did stand up there in my bridal party beside me on my wedding day. And like I said, that's on me, that's on nobody else. But we would never see or hang out with each other ever again after that. And I never got an explanation until about a year later. I got a random text from her, and I got to give it to her. It was a no bullshit apology. It literally was like, I'm sorry, you did not deserve that. Excuse me. Sorry, you did not deserve that. I surrounded myself with mean girls, therefore I became a mean girl, and literally just owning it and just saying sorry. I did accept the apology. Like I said, I had a lot of love for this human, and we shared a lot of really happy memories together, so I accepted the apology, but we've never seen or spoken to each other since. I forgot to mention that one day after my wedding, I just woke up and my bridesmaid and friend number one had just unfollowed me on social media. So flash forward a couple months, they all have a falling out, and friend number one tries refollowing me on social media, and it was honestly just really triggering to me, just because, like I said, I never got an explanation, and I never understood why it was happening. So I just flat out messaged her and I said, hey, I don't want you to feel like you have the right to follow me. You guys bullied me for several months and for no apparent reason. And I gotta give it to her too, because she owned up to it, and she said, you're right. We were mean to you for no reason, and I'm sorry that I made you feel that way, and I'm sorry I was involved in that, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't respond. Friend number two, like I said, I've never met her, will most likely never meet her. So the fact that I saw her say those things about me, I just genuinely just not a nice person. I don't want to meet her. And that's the story. That's the tea. I didn't mean to open a can of worms. I just thought that this situation really fit the trend well yesterday. But it is what it is. Just a classic case of like high school mean girl bullying. But we're happy and we're thriving now.
Tell you about my stalker. So 5 years ago, I worked in a grocery store. There was like a little market, and I worked in the bakery. And there was this guy that would always come in and like stare at me. And then it started with pretty normal stalker stuff. He started leaving flowers, and not like flowers from like a flower market, like dandelions from outside, or like just random things that he found outside. And he would leave these notes, and it started with just like these poems, like, you are more beautiful than a rose, like blah blah blah. But then the notes started to get progressively a lot weirder. By the way, I'm using this e.l.f. blush in the shade Bora Bora. I got it on the TikTok shop a while ago, and I really, really like it. And it's like a moisturizer too, so it makes your skin really soft. It's just really nice. So yeah, I'll tag it below if you're interested. But yeah, the notes started to get really odd because they were like acting as if we were in a relationship. So it would be like, hey babe, like hope you're having a great day at work. Can't wait to see you later. I love you so much, whatever. And then they started to be like as if we were in a relationship, but we had gotten in a fight. So it was like, babe, please give me a chance. I love you so much. I didn't mean to hurt you. All this stuff. And then the flowers and like weeds that he was giving me, he started to give me like dead ones. So at this point, I'm getting a little freaked out, but honestly, it took so much to freak me out back then. Like, I was just the biggest chiller in the dumbest way. I'll tag the kimchi highlighter below too. This shit is gas. So yeah, I was eating lunch at this little mini park thing by the water, and I was on the phone or something. I wasn't paying attention, and I just turned around, and he was standing right there, just like covered in tears, like, and that was when I got pretty freaked out. So I ran for my life, and he was going, talk to me, just talk to me. And I was not gonna do that. So when I got back to work, I told my boss, and I was like getting really freaked out. So they banned him from the store, and then when he tries to come again, the police come, he's taken off the premises, whatever. But I get to work one day, and this girl that's pretty new goes, hey, your boyfriend called, you just wanted to know when you were gonna get off today. I was like, ma'am, I don't have a boyfriend. So that's a little weird, right? It's a little odd. Mind you, I walked to work, and I lived like maybe a quarter mile, half a mile from work, and I walked every day. I didn't have a car. So thankfully, someone drove me home that night, and lo and behold, he was sitting on the sidewalk, like right in front of my house. And it's not surprising when you knew where I lived, because he was always in that neighborhood, and like I said, I lived right there, walked to work every day. So I called the police. And after I call the police, he just runs off, but I tell them who it is whenever I tell them there's been an issue with this before. Then I think I saw him like one more time, and I just never saw him again. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I would be like kind of looking around for him. Then my coworker sends me this article stating that he's been arrested. And let me just show you this. So the article goes on to state that he was sitting outside of Olive Garden, topless, shoveling spaghetti in his mouth, shouting at people. He, I believe, threw spaghetti at someone. He asked someone about their genitals. Just things that you don't really want to be around at Olive Garden. Like, come on, it's a family restaurant, you know? So he was arrested. I genuinely hope that he's doing better now. I think he was really having some mental health struggles and some addiction issues. He was homeless. I'm kind of proud that my stalker had a Florida Man article.
Am I the asshole for not doing the homework my husband's therapist assigned to me? My husband and I have been together for over a decade. During this time, he's been in therapy on and off. He had a hard time finding a therapist that was right for him. A few of his therapists early on encouraged him to just medicate, no regular sessions, and one pushed religion on him. Neither of these worked. What he needed was someone to meet with him semi-regularly, not push their religious beliefs on him, and instead work with him to develop appropriate strategies / talk through the issues. Whenever he told me about one of these more questionable strategies, i.e. pushing just love Jesus, I said I thought that was inappropriate and he should find a better therapist and go without until then. There have been long stretches where he has gone without therapy because my husband isn't generally good at taking care of himself. That falls on me. I have to remind him to do things to keep him healthy / taken care of. Drink water. Eat more than once a day. There are literally times I have to tell him he needs to brush his teeth. He also gets anxious making any decisions on his own. I have to help him pick out new clothes, write emails to work colleagues, or groups of friends. He can't make plans for us. I have to make them all. Or I should say, I have to help him make the plans so then he can say he made them. He's a good person. He loves me so much, but he is so dependent on me. It is draining. I have to spend an hour at least once a week talking him through whatever crisis he's having. Sometimes this crisis is over what new collectible to buy. A collectible for him that I do not have any interest in. I finally demanded that he look into therapists again. I told him I cannot be his therapist and he cannot depend on me this much. He needs to start taking care of himself and get a therapist that will work with him to develop these skills. And he did, which is great. However, a month into therapy, he said his therapist had homework for me. I was supposed to write out a list of his great qualities, at least a page or two. Mind you, this is after years of me carrying all his emotional baggage, essentially mothering him and giving him credit for things I did so he can feel better about himself. And one year, I did in fact write out 100 things that I thought were great about him for a gift. I was so frustrated. I said no. I said therapy is his work, not mine, and I've spent too many years of our lives solving things for him. It wasn't fair to ask me to sit down and do this homework when the point of this therapy was for him to build his own skills without depending on me all the time. He was upset, but accepted it. He said he understood. Well, just the other day, he told me that his therapist doesn't like me and thinks I should be thanking and showing him appreciation more. I told him I didn't care what his therapist thought. They are his therapist. This does have me thinking, though. Am I the asshole for not doing the homework his therapist assigned to me?
Am I the astronaut for refusing to help my stepdaughter with her fashion career despite owning a fashion company? My stepdaughter Mia, 23, has been dreaming of working in the fashion world since she was young. I was married to her father when she was 15. She took many courses to work on herself, and I must say she's good at picking fabrics and colors. However, she isn't good at designing. She's a good stylist, but not a good designer. I started my business 16 years ago, and it was very small and low budget, but I was lucky enough to expand it to where it is now. Still not the biggest company out there, but big enough in my region. Part of my expansion plan was to hire other young designers, and my team and I are quite selective of who gets the job and who doesn't because designs are products we sell. so it has to be good and pass the judgment of my team. This also means that I'm not the sole judge of who gets chosen. I prefer to hear what others have and decide with them. My husband asked me to have Mia as a designer in my company. From the very start, I knew Mia wasn't a good designer, but I told my husband to have her apply for the job and submit her papers for me and the team to look at, and we would examine her skills. I think he was surprised I said apply for it instead of an immediate yes, but he still told Mia, who sent a thank you text, for helping her. I don't know exactly my husband told her for her to send a thank you text, but I replied saying that I'll be waiting for her application along with the judges to examine her work constructively, and wished her luck. I honestly don't know to this day if my husband lied to her or if she sent the text to guilt trip me. I have no clue. Anyway, her day came and no one thought her application was on par with our criteria, so she was sent an email that she was not accepted. Let's just say all hell broke loose from here. My husband told me about how this is nonsense and it was unfair that I didn't accept her. I told him that I'm not the sole decision maker and I have a system in place for new applicants, but he wanted me to bend the system for Mia. If I did that, my credibility with my employees would sink and I'd lose them eventually. Plus, if Mia got in, her fellow designers wouldn't respect her because she'd only get in for being my relative and not for her skills that are far behind her fellow designers. It is a huge risk for me ethically and financially to include Mia. My husband proceeded to tell me the list of courses and work Mia has done to achieve her dream. I told him I understood, but she still doesn't have the skills to meet our criteria and she can apply somewhere else and get accepted. Mia later sent me a long text of how I failed her and she doesn't want to see or hear from me anymore. Update to answer frequent questions. 1. Can she be a stylist or assistant designer? Yes, if she applied, she can. However, designers get to choose their staff and team, not me. So it is up to the designer to let go of their current stylist or not, or add an extra stylist. 2, she didn't reach out to me, her father did. So logically, I talked to her father, and when she went to me directly, I told her that she would be examined constructively so I wouldn't skyrocket her expectations. 3, can she be an intern or an amateur designer? No, because we only hire established designers, not students. 4, which is the most important, Mia didn't request help. She didn't request mentoring. She didn't request opinions. She requested a job at my business. That's an important one. 5, since she wanted to keep it strictly business, I gave her just that, a very professional setup. I expected she'd fail. I wasn't 100% sure. As I already stated, there are judges. I believe that going through the process of professionalism, either getting accepted or rejected, is an experience and process everyone should have. Agreed. 6, yes, I can hire anyone and overrule all my judges. I chose not to because I abide by my standards and morals. So while I technically can, bending my set of rules will mark my downfall and hurt my integrity in the industry and within myself.
Remember, we just had the conversation about not working for a celebrity if you are a fan of celebrity culture and the celebrity lifestyle, because it just doesn't work out. Now, this person got fired from her job the day after the Grammys because of poor performance. I'm going to break down why she absolutely should have gotten fired. She probably should have been fired, to be honest. But go back and watch her video because I don't know how long it's going to be up. Red flag number 1. She called her boss her friend. Your boss is never your friend. You are not friends with celebrities when you work for them. That's just not how it works. And the fact that you think you're friends is a problem in and of itself. If you think you're friends with your celebrity boss, that means you think you're on an even playing field. And how can you support someone and be their assistant if you think you're on an even playing field? It just doesn't make sense. Reason number 2 why she got fired. She got to the Grammys with her client. They were in the car, and the client realizes that she left her shoes at home. She asked the assistant to give her her shoes off of her feet, and the assistant said no. Well, I hate to break it to you. It is absolutely your job to give your boss the shoes off your feet, if in fact they don't have them. Not only that, if we're keeping it all the way true, the client, the celebrity, your boss, didn't leave their shoes. You, as the personal assistant, left the shoes at home. It is your job to make sure your celebrity boss has their shoes in the car before you leave for the Grammys. And this is why you can't consider yourself a friend, because as a friend, you just think you're going to hang out at a party and not making sure you check off everything on the list that's needed. When you guys realized she did not have shoes, you should have offered to give her your shoes. It should never have been a question of her having to ask you and then you telling her no. It is your job to make sure everything she needs gets done. And the third reason why she got fired. There's so many reasons. But the third reason why she got fired is because she was upset that she had to stand outside with the dogs and she missed going to the Grammys. Because she looks forward to going to the Grammys all year long and she was super dialed up and she was really excited to go. But instead she had to stay outside in the rain with the dogs. I'm not even going to get into the dog story because that's just wild. Go back and listen to her post if you want to hear about what the dogs were doing at the Grammys in the first place. But the problem with this is, yes, the Grammys are fun. I've been several times. You are still at work. If you get to go to events like this, great. If something happens and you don't get to go, also fine. You should not feel any type of way. And this goes back to you thinking your boss is your friend. See, as your friend, yes, you got all dialed up and you were ready to go and you thought you should have been in the Grammys with your friend. But as your boss, stand outside with the dogs. And this is why it's so important to be very careful who you hire. You cannot hire someone who just likes the lifestyle of a celebrity, just likes the fan culture of it all, just likes the limelight and the parties and getting dialed up for the Grammys. You have to make sure the people in your circle are actually there to work and to support you.
My boyfriend of 2 years told me that he would always want a paternity test for any kids he has because as a man, you just never know. My boyfriend and I were making dinner and chatting about our days, and I told him about some drama in my life and how one of my coworkers is questioning the paternity of his adult daughter. That's when my boyfriend told me that, no matter the scenario, he would always want a paternity test for any kids he has. He said we could be locked away in an isolated cabin for the entirety of a pregnancy, and he would still want a test, just to be sure. He said he would do all of the legwork of scheduling the test, showing up to it, and paying for it. His reasoning for wanting this is that as a man, you can never truly 100% know if a kid is yours without the test, so he would want it just in case. He also mentioned hearing too many horror stories about men raising children that weren't theirs. He wanted to let me know all of this now before we were thinking about having kids, because asking for one after I was pregnant or while we were trying would be offensive. In the moment, I felt kind of disgusted at the request, but thought bringing it up now was a lot better than bringing it up later. I also am a woman, so I will know 100% that any kids I have will be mine. Therefore, I hid my disgust and told him that it would be fine. But the more I thought about it, the more I hated it. Asking for a paternity test in pretty much any scenario is an accusation of cheating. It's saying you don't trust your partner enough to not cheat and you don't trust your partner enough not to trick you into raising a child that's not yours. Bringing it up before thinking about having kids is better than bringing it up afterwards, but still seems like a red flag. Try as I might, I can't stop myself from feeling hurt by this. I have no intention of ever cheating on my boyfriend, so I can only really see it as an inability to trust. So now I am here, asking for perspective. Is this a reasonable request from him? Is perspective of the situation from a man's view something I just can't see? Any thoughts would be appreciated.
Am I in the wrong for saying you should have thought about that before you procreated? My ex and I have a 13-year-old daughter, Nicole. Nicole has several medical conditions that require a lot of attention. She'll need some sort of in-home assistance for the rest of her life. While we have an aide to help a couple of days a week, it's still a challenge. The outcome of Nicole's condition became clear when she was 2. At that point, my ex and I had agreed that we wouldn't have more kids because it wouldn't be fair to anyone. There'd be no way that we could focus attention on 2 kids. Someone would lose out in this situation. We divorced when Nicole was 5. We originally had 50-50 custody. 3 years later, my ex remarried. His new wife, Callie, is nice. My ex did say that she didn't understand the severity of Nicole's condition. I figured there was a learning curve. Eventually, Callie basically said that she wanted to be hands-off, which I respected, though I wondered how it'd work considering Nicole lives with them half of the time. Last year, my ex and Callie had a baby. I was a little surprised given my ex was always firm on not having more kids, but figured it wasn't any of my business. He did begin to complain that it was a lot of work juggling Nicole and the baby. I sympathized but really didn't know what else to say. Recently, the venting got worse. He said that Callie yelled at him for taking Nicole to her physical therapy appointment instead of helping her with the baby. He brought up potentially having Nicole stay with me more. I wasn't entirely shocked, but it pissed me off. I said Nicole was his daughter. He can't just abandon the responsibility. He asked what he was supposed to do about the baby. I said, maybe you should have thought of that before you procreated. I mean, really, we discussed this 10 years ago as why it'd be hard to juggle 2 kids. Why did you think having another one would be a good idea? He got quiet and said that Callie wanted a baby. I said that isn't enough of a reason and maybe he should have thought harder before bringing more life into this world. The conversation ended with me saying that I'd call my lawyer and we could arrange for him to have less custody as I'd rather have my daughter be properly cared for than to be viewed as a burden. Callie called me that night very upset that I had made my ex cry and that I said her baby shouldn't exist. That's not what I said completely, more that they didn't think it through. She called me a jerk. So, am I in the wrong?